Welcome everyone to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading and take a look at some potential hotspots in the markets for today, March 25th, Friday, March 25th. My name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. With me from Keep Trading Simple is Brian Caprice. Don't have a lot to talk about today. I mean, it's the FX markets are pretty quiet. We're not seeing a lot of movement there. In the headlines, we are seeing some headlines that involve some commodities. So we are going to take a peek and look in at gold, and we're going to take a peek and look in at natural gas. Those are the two big headlines. In fact, I'm going to bring up the gold chart real quickly and show you what we were talking about yesterday morning. We were scratching our heads, and then the story came out. U.S. is looking to sanction or ban the 140 billion that Russia has in gold. Gold is not exactly something that's easy to trade, but if you took that supply off the market somehow, even if Russia could look for places to sell it, and I'm sure there are people out there who would buy it, but if you took that out of the supply, it would push the price of gold higher. Interesting times for that. So we'll take a look at gold, and then nat gas. The U.S. looking for a solution to help out the EU next winter by shipping over some liquefied nat gas, at least to replace some of what Europe gets out of Russia. Although there's no way we can replace all of it. Equities looking to open slightly in the green. Pretty quiet morning in the markets, but we do have those headlines for nat gas and gold. Before we jump into it, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone. That any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. And just quickly before I flip it over to Brian, it was rather interesting because I'm just going to go back to yesterday morning. Let's slide this over a little bit. And you could see these two very large candles. There was a big spike up in gold and then an immediate retracement. And this came right before some economic numbers yesterday. And Brian and I were like, what is going on? I mean, that was kind of weird. And then right after we finished, the news comes out. U.S. is looking to put some sanctions on Russian gold, and then gold took off and has since just kind of grinded its way back down. But we'll take a look at some technical levels in there. But clearly, somebody knew something. Somebody knew that we were about to do that, and somebody took action. And then, I mean, it was just kind of weird, and there was no reason for that. And we're like, what is that? Well, now we know what that was. Here, Brian, I'm going to flip it over to you. We could talk a little bit more about the gold. We could talk about nat gas and maybe a little bit on equities. But yeah, because FX, nothing. And
FX is
it's March.
really
It's
flat right
March
now.
Madness, and if your bracket wasn't busted before, after last night,
Yeah, there'll
with
be analysis. I'm sure when it's over, they will release some of that of how many percent. It'll be crazy. I'm looking
uh,
forward to the kind of post hoc analysis of March Madness bracket.
how brackets did. I want to know how many people picked final. I mean, these are 3 number 1 seeds who didn't make it to the Elite 8. And Kansas hasn't played. I mean, would it be crazy if all 4 number 1 seeds get booted in the Sweet 16 round? I mean,
Maybe it's happened before. I don't know. Maybe
I don't think that's ever happened.
maybe there's statisticians for that. I'm sure they will give us that data. Like I said, it'll
Yeah.
be all over the. If it did happen, it's going to be like 1932 in like the 5th year or something like that.
Well, I
It'll
will
be
say
something
this. I
crazy.
think Warren Buffett's $1 million on a perfect bracket is I think he could save that money this year. I think he's safe. I don't think anybody. I
I think
mean,
the
with
odds are in his favor to start off with. He
yeah,
doesn't do
they always
anything that the
are.
odds are not stacked in his favor. So, yeah, whatever Warren does, just do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if he's wrong, it'll be right.
It'll be right eventually.
Yeah.
Too
So,
funny.
yeah, as Todd mentioned, there's really nothing. I mean, we have some yen retracing, but compared to where we were yesterday, I mean, the dollar yen is up 4, the pound yen up 23. Dollar CAD again is still down. 39 pips. We talked about this yesterday as being something that we were going to see now as this kind of grinding lower as the Canadian day has been great. Dollar Swiss also down, and again coming off those Swiss comments yesterday. So, but besides that, it's not like it's really dollar strength or dollar weakness or really anything. Euro pound up, 19. And then again, headline wise, there's really not that much. I mean, as Todd mentioned, Biden. There was other talks of Biden going over there, and the EU struck a gas deal with the U.S. But the reality is, if you look into it, it's really a lot of it is talking about much farther down the line. And again, natural gas, because it's in the headlines and because there's a deal, natural gas is spiking. But some of the data that we got from it is, that the goal is the EU will, be able to reduce their reliance upon Russia by 2/3 this year and end all of it by 2027. Again, that's 5 years from now. Russia supports about 40% of natural gas. The problem with this is people see this as like, oh, the United States is shipping natural gas. That's actually not the case. Natural gas plants are already producing at full capacity, and analysts say most of the additional U.S. gas sent to Europe would have to come from exports that would have gone elsewhere. And already high European gas prices would have to rise further to attract those cargoes. So basically, for us to give that, we have to take it from other countries to be able to give it over there. They do mention too, it takes 2 to 3 years to build a facility, so maybe that's where the 5-year plan is. They said basically what we're trying to do is if we could get the additional 15 BCMs, and again, that's it's basically British like thermal units. It's how they kind of gauge it. But if we could give them the additional 15, it falls well short of replacing Russian gas imports, which amount to 155. So it's only 10%. So it kind of goes back to the same thing that the United States is. We're not going to take Russian oil. Okay, it's 90,000 barrels. It's like a drop in a barrel as far as what we actually use versus Canada, that's 4 million.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same thing.
We couldn't. There's no way we could replace that in that entire supply.
Yeah, and it kind of goes in there and says that. And what I find interesting though is we know there's going to be setbacks, and what they're saying is, and also we should focus on renewables. No. Now is the time when you should make yourself energy independent and focus on the renewables yourself. If it's going to take 5 years to do it, put all the additional money in, create a bill, do something. Instead of just sending billions of dollars into Ukraine and weapons, put those $1 billion into energy, and then you become energy independent, and then you're good. That because right now you're just basically shifting independence from one nation to another one. So there's ways to do it themselves, but yeah, so that was one of the headlines. The gold headline actually came out yesterday, and we're kind of hearing a little bit more about it today. I guess it was kind of in between the two sessions because I know I talked about it yesterday with my group. But besides that, we had a little bit more data out of the yen. Kuroda basically said, I don't think the markets have lost faith in the yen. Meanwhile, he's going, please lose faith in the yen. Please use faith in the yen because a weak yen helps their economy out so much. But besides that, that's it. There's really nothing out there. Haven't heard really anything more. The data from this morning, retail sales was down in the UK. It was supposed to be lower. It actually went negative a little bit. And again, diving into that, I talked about this a little yesterday with my group as well. Retail sales being down is not a supply chain issue. It is an inflation issue right now. They're not saying, hey, we're not selling things because we don't have it to sell. It's talking about how expensive things are now. So it becomes a different issue where retail sales kind of takes on like an entirely kind of new twist on things. When it's a supply-based thing, you see manufacturing exploding through the roof, but we saw kind of those numbers being mixed. Again, it just shows you the toll that inflation is starting to take, particularly on something like retail sales, So, and they've already done 3 raises, so there's more coming. And then the business climate in Germany actually surprisingly came in lower. I thought this would actually be, above where it was, but there was actually an adjustment before, and it came in lower. Again, obviously, Germany's where, again, when we're talking about energy for the EU, they basically mean Germany is who they're talking about. Germany is such a big industrial powerhouse over there. They're not talking about, natural gas supplies in Italy. They mean Germany because that's the industrial base of all the EU. So, but yeah, that's it. There's really nothing else. And it's funny, looking at the charts too, we were joking a little while ago. The VIX has now crept up just ever so slightly.
It's off to zero.
It's off to zero, yeah. When we first got on a couple minutes ago to kind of talk about today's plan, the VIX was actually at 0.00. I've never seen it where it's been completely flat, but it did. It's basically where it closed yesterday. There's really a little bit of a pop in the overnight because again, markets are not open. There's a little bit more volatility associated with that, but really no movement. Dollar's down just a little tiny bit from where it was yesterday, but in the overnight it took a big drop, and then now it's just retracing it and kind of resetting itself. So we're still kind of in the same channel here. Looking at the indices, they're all up, right? What news is there to kind of stop them right now? There's nothing really, right? There's nothing bad. We still have the same level. Yesterday we talked about kind of different setups for it, and again, it was super choppy. The market had no idea what to do with it at the open, right? NQ was the same thing. There was a short right at the open. And then after that, it just continued to push higher because there's no news, right? There's nothing out there. I mean, we haven't heard of Russia doing anything bad, but the United States is like, well, if they drop nuclear weapons, then we're going to get involved. Okay, we assumed that would have happened before too, but
Yeah.
there hasn't. I mean, if you look at the actual, even on the Ukraine front, there's really it
Nothing.
used to be everything. It was like, oh my God, they did this, the column did this, they did it. We're not actually hearing a whole lot right now. It's kind of strange. And in reality, the last thing we heard is, there was, there was peace talks and they were talking, but now it's gone silent. We don't know what's happening in those talks, and the only article I see is what happens if they escalate, but there's no actual concrete headlines. It's kind of crazy going to the weekend. So, and actually, there's an article right here. Markets turn cautious ahead of the weekend. You don't really know what's happening. The U.S. is saying there could be vertical escalation, but actually coming from their legitimate on the ground news, hasn't really been much. We haven't seen
Everyone's
anything.
watching basketball. I'm telling you.
Maybe, yeah, right. Yeah, do Russians like basketball? I feel like they do.
Yeah,
Right?
they got
yeah,
basketball's big over there.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's been very, very quiet in the markets, a sense. The only other, I guess, major headline is Yellen made some comments this morning, and Yellen talked about how it's not appropriate to sanction China yet. And again, I think that's a very, the relationship we have with China is already kind of rocky as it is now, and there's a number of reasons why. They needed to be challenged, they needed to be checked. Trump did that, and everybody was kind of very against checking them as a world power. And now they're talking about sending semiconductors to Russia, and it's like, wait, they can't do that. It's like, well, they don't have an issue, they don't have any problems yet. Everybody knows the background why. I mean, again, they're looking at this and saying, okay, what do we need to do differently? What we need to prepare for, because we're going to take Taiwan over again. And again, remember, the Taiwan situation is different. It's not internationally recognized. So we can't say that they attacked a sovereign country, because internationally it is not recognized. So that's a big deal. And again, she's just saying it, globalization is going to be halted. Conceivable that oil prices are going to go higher. She's been saying this for a while. Again, she's considered a yellow, low impact breaking news, but again, global growth is going to be hurt by oil. Everybody knows it. Sanctions should degrade Russian economy for a long time, and that's the goal, right? There's some change in sanctions will affect Putin's decision. This is the hope, right? That he won't do anything further in the future if we, because of the sanctions. Right. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's
or they'll put so much heat to them that it will cause a regime change.
It's cold. It's cold because it's
and they're I tell you, there's stories are popping up. I mean, it's even the soldiers over there are starting to get like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we being asked to do this or told to do this? And some of them are even starting to. I mean, you're hearing stories about some of them attacking their own colonels. So
in the United States, that gets you shot, though. So
yeah. Well, but it's just it's not just one guy. If they get a rift in their military and they stop following orders, it'll get it. And Russia's known; they have a history of having a little bit of revolution every now and then. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, but again, it's trust the news as far as you want to, but I'm not going to kind of fall into the narrative of the news, because the news is going to tell us what we want to hear. We already know that that's going to be the narrative. Remember, Russia's also a country in World War II defending themselves that sent soldiers into battle without weapons and said, when the guy in front of you dies, pick his up and keep going. So,
and there was a guy behind him who was saying, if you don't go forward,
if you turn around, we're going to shoot you.
I'll shoot you. So, right. You're going to get shot either way.
Yeah, it's a different culture, and is there going to be people that don't agree with things? Absolutely, it happens in all militaries. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. So, until we see a concrete headline, I mean, we have to go with that. I mean, oil right now is continuing to degrade. Yellen said it's going to go higher, and it's going lower. Right now, it's still 109. I think, again,
what are
the shoe? What?
Yeah, I was going to say, where do we see buyers coming in here?
I mean, we have a level just below 108. I think 108.30 is an important level. It's been there before. It has sliced through, but now, if you look at over where the buyers were, it was higher, and we're kind of approaching that level right now. The inventory numbers kind of threw things for a loop. The big, it's nice that everybody wants to replace Russian oil. They know that they can't do it right now, and it's kind of like a lot of lip service of how we're going to do it. But the reality is, right now, we still need it. If there's any true we're blocking it, we're halting it, we're not going to do it anymore. Or Russia basically says, oh, you're going to do that to us? Fine, we're just not going to sell it to you now.
Yeah.
That's really kind of where we're at with oil. Again, global demand, Yellen mentioning that global demand is going to, or global recovery is going to be hurt by oil prices. Yeah, but if the demand is hurt, that also means that the demand for it won't be as high if global growth is hurt from it. So it's interesting. Again, is oil justified to be this high? I don't know if it's justified to be this high, right? A lot of this has to do with the war. And again, lack of headlines. It's kind of like, well, what are we doing? Are we going to go to 130? Are we going to go back down
Yeah.
to $100?
The uncertainty. I mean,
they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the two big major short areas is one, the 108. We got to see if we can get through this 108 area. If you look down here, right at the bottom of this 107.10, and again, you're like, wait, it's that whole dollar. Yeah, because we're up in the hundreds, right? Percentage wise, it's not huge though. If it breaks 107, that's going to be a big area where support and resistance traders step into this. They're going to say, oh, this is a pivot. That's it. We got it. We got a short, right? And there's going to be that kind of trap around that level.
Yep.
It is going into the weekend. And I think what we really need to hear is, again, if we hear nothing, I would assume that this continues to degrade down. It's only going to be a headline that spikes this higher. If there's any type of escalation or any type of, that's it, there's going to be no peace. We're taking the country up, right?
Right. You'll see it go higher.
We need a catalyst, and there's no catalyst. With no lack of any catalyst, it should continue to deteriorate lower in this one. And again, with prices this high, it's not like we can just magically produce anymore. But again, there's going to be a lot more emphasis. I mean, remember the last time when oil hit 100 the first time, and prices were $4. All we heard about was renewables nonstop. It was about what other technologies. This is the end of oil. This is why we need to do it. You don't really hear that right now, which is kind of strange.
Well,
you're not. So
they're trying to solve an immediate problem. The long-term solution, though, is remove your dependence on some of these fossil fuels, and then
I mean,
and I think you're going to see Germany. I mean, because Germany is certainly talking about doing stuff like that. So, and I've worked for a German company. When it comes to over-engineering a solution, a technological solution, they will do it.
And again, we could go to natural gas cars, but instead we're staying with gasoline.
Yeah. Let's also take a peek over at Nat Gas. Yeah. I mean, just on the headlines that, just because people are going to be talking about it, whether we're able to solve the problem or not, it is in the news that the U.S. is trying to do something.
Yeah, and magically, I mean, the deal was cut today. Magically, yesterday morning at 10:30, natural gas exploded high. I don't know how it happened. Somebody has a crystal ball, right? Was Mr. Pelosi in natural gas now? Is he commodities? I don't know. But this is magically, it popped yesterday. And the inventories were down a little bit. They have Thursday inventories, but it didn't justify this big of a move going from, percentage-wise, this is a huge. And then it kind of flatlined. And then the overnight, 5:30 when they had the deal, it popped a little bit, but you can see it ran up, and it ran into that those sellers up at $5.40. It hit it, and it's like, oh god, we can't get out, we can't get out. And then finally it punched through, and then the news came out. I was like, oh, there we go. And we got stopped in the next little area of sellers up here at 550. So do I think natural gas can go higher? Yeah, I think so. The reason why is because the retail trader is seeing it now. They're like, oh my god, and realizing that we are at capacity for what we can produce. Then all of a sudden, when you hear at capacity and we need to produce more, it's like, okay. I'm just, my kind of fear in this whole thing is, they said it in the article, we can't produce anymore. For us to help Europe, we need to take it from other countries. What other countries are we taking it for? Are they less fortunate companies that can't pay the inflated prices? Are we saying that money is more important than lives? That's kind of where I'm kind of worried about. I'm going to remove this, and there is a short here, though. So I want to point the short out.
All right.
There is a level of basing right below this. It will come back down again. It's just once the shock of the news comes out, here's a level of basing, and it was a bottom, and then push kind of deeply, which shows us that there is an area here where buyers are starting to falter. Here's a parabolic move. And again, not everybody trades natural gas, but I'm looking at this, and again, I'm hoping it doesn't happen over the weekend. But there's an area right here, and there's your 1 to 3, right back where your profit target should be, which is approximately in this level right here, which is a little bit long. But if we have a break here, this is an ideal Harry Potter setup of a drop of below 533. Area of base, parabolic move, area of basing. It's been an area where buyers have been found, and now it's starting to push lower. With a break of that, again, pullback, short. This will be probably a Monday, Tuesday based trade. Once again, today's initial headlines are out.
Right, and everyone digests it, and we see. But it certainly is going to be talked about quite a bit. All right. I mean that we did cover more than what I thought we would because it was a quiet Friday, but certainly oil and nat gas. I mean, yeah, what Maria's asking, what about the commodities? I mean, that's all we really spoke about today was were the commodities, particularly the energies. So
Yeah.
with that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Brian and I are also accessible. We answer our own emails. If you want to email us, Brian is available at support@keeptradingsimple.com. If you've got some ideas, things you'd like to see more of, less of, I know now that we're owned by crypto.com, eventually we'll be adding crypto much more frequently to what we discuss. I mean, a chart is a chart, but please feel free to email me, todd.rich@nadex.com. And what did we see today? It's just quiet. Markets looking to open slightly in green, pretty quiet on the headline front. And, maybe we'll have just a quiet spring Friday. So everyone enjoy March Madness basketball. We've still got some more to go this weekend. And Brian and I will be back Monday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like what we're doing, please give us a like on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're catching us. We do appreciate that greatly. And we will catch you Monday. Good luck in the markets, everyone.